Today, a win for the president's agenda, but the party fractures remain as he continues to push his pet projects.
Mr. President Trump, get engaged!
Plus, in the Trump era, are Democrats moving away from purity tests for their candidates?
Folks, if your house is on fire, you don't ask whether the firefighter has problematic DMs.
Also,
you see that's what's happening in California. They're rigging the election.
Is MAGA's baseless reaction to California's vote delay a preview of the midterms? And it's his party, and he'll rally if he wants to. After musicians bail on Trump's 250th concert, the president declares his own independence by making himself the star. Here in studio, Allison, Arthur Aidala, Cari Champion, and Bluey. It's the weekend. Join the conversation at a table for 5. Hi everyone, I'm Abby Phillip. For more than a decade now, it's been extremely rare. But the more unpopular Donald Trump becomes, along with his war, his economy, and his agenda, Republicans are starting to push back. This week, the president's party delivered some strong rebukes, first in the House, including several Republicans who voted to rein in his power against Iran as that war drags on. They pushed back against his pick to lead the nation's intelligence agencies, a retribution vessel with zero experience. And they are threatening to kill the $1.8 billion slush fund to compensate his allies. They also removed any funding for his ballroom from the bills. And they're even questioning his pick for Attorney General Todd Blanche. Here's one Republican senator, who Trump snubbed, by the way, showing his frustration on the floor.
I'm speaking to President Trump. Mr. President Trump, get engaged! Mr. President, too many people have this debt, $10,000 on their credit card related to paying in part for things such as medical expenses, and they are going down. That is something that we, Mr. President, you, the President, and we as Congress must engage upon.
So the question is, with 5 months left until the midterms, are Republicans showing some spine? Are they worried about how all of this is going to collectively show up for the American people come November, when the basic question is going to be, did you make my life better or did you make my life worse?
Yeah, Abby, I'd say, are my personal finances getting better or are they getting worse? That is what we know from previous elections is usually the central question to the heart of what you were saying. I agree with what Senator Cassidy said there about health care. In fact, I think that the best thing that congressional Republicans can do while they still have the majority is take that next step toward a third reconciliation bill. They will not need more than a simple majority in the U.S. Senate to tackle the rising health care premiums that Americans are facing, to go after the waste, fraud, and abuse that J.D. Vance is trying to stem out with his task force. Those are real, tangible things that they can do right now, and the president should get behind them and support it.
The only problem is that they passed a big, beautiful bill, as they like to call it, that actually rescinded tax cuts for folks on health care, and actually are part of the reasons why folks are not feeling like their life is getting better. I also don't know if they'll get that simple majority, because the people who Trump slighted, Cassidy, Tillis, and even on today, the SAVE Act, Murkowski and Collins, are voting against their own majority. And so they're not going to be able to do it in this next 6 months because Trump is so unpopular. But the point of those 4 senators, but particularly Cassidy, I'm waiting to see if Cornyn pops out because he's no longer going to be a sitting senator.
He's already started to complain about certain things.
Right. Yeah. But those are the people who are only doing it, only doing it because they no longer are being in office, and they no longer, Donald Trump has just castigated them to the side. And that is not a good way to.
Well, I mean, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as though, now they don't have to worry about the electoral consequences. Yeah. Interesting that you brought up Cornyn, because remember when he was going to name a street for Donald Trump? A highway, actually, an interstate. He says now it's not a priority anymore, he tells the Houston Chronicle. So, yeah, you've got someone like Cornyn, you've got Tillis, and here's actually, for example, on Tillis, here's what Trump says about him, as Tillis really opposes this $1.8 billion fund that DOJ was planning on establishing.
Senator Tillis is a loser, stone cold, and He's an angry man because I basically, he was forced to leave the Senate because I wouldn't support him, and he quit. So now he's trying to make trouble by, opposing anybody.
Ashley raises a good point, which is like it's really interesting to see how they are coming at Trump now because there really are no election consequences for them. And God bless this man. He just makes it so simple. He's a loser, and so therefore he's dumb. And I think now that and I don't know why I'm looking at you, but I think now that
it is Saturday morning, and this is what we do.
How can you?
How can you resist?
No, because I want to hear you try to make sense of this. Like, I really want you to try to tell me what makes sense here. It's just everyone is so selfish. No one cares about the constituents. No one cares about the people who actually are being affected. You make great points. It's so easily done. Not with this administration, not with this man, and not with these people who call themselves elected officials representing a certain part of their state.
So, Abby, when you introduced the segment, you talked about, other Republicans finally getting a spine. Both sides are just sheep, in my opinion. Like, they just follow whatever the leader of their respective party says. That's what they do.
Sure.
For self-preservation, until, like, those 4 senators, for them, their self-preservation goes off the table. So now they're voting their conscience, and that's sad. In other words, you were supposed to be an elected official to do the right thing, not to stay in office as long as you possibly can, not to please whoever it is. You're supposed to please, as you just said, your constituency. And if you're from Kansas, you have a very different constituency than if you're representing, New York. So, I mean, I'm happy they're doing the right thing. But the one thing, Abby, that's changed with technology, throughout my whole life, I was never polled, right? My home phone never rang to get polled. Now, all of a sudden, on my cell phone, it's not going to go crazy, but at least once a month, I am asked to take some kind of sometimes it's a local poll, a state poll, or a national poll. I think we're being naive not to think that polling has some effect on what people are saying and doing.
You mean like the fact that they are being asked?
They're being asked, and then what the results are, and saying,
they're looking.
I better do this. Yeah, they're looking at the poll for survival.
But part of it is also just that Trump has been very transparent, to your point. Sometimes he just says the thing about his actual priorities, and whether it's the ballroom or the arches or the statues, or now he names the head of the director of national intelligence, right? And it's a guy who has no experience in that field. And it's not because he thinks that this guy is going to make America safer, but it's because he thinks he's going to investigate the election. Listen to what Trump said.
He's not going to be permanent because, I don't think he'd want to be permanent. But he's a very smart guy, and he may find out some things about the rigged elections, et cetera, et cetera. I think he'd like to do it. I think he wants to do it very much. Got a lot of energy.
Does he have the necessary, in your view, Mr. President, the necessary national security experience to take on that position?
Well, I do, and I think he does, actually, because he's smart. Because a lot of national security, I wasn't greatly experienced in national security, and I think I've done a really great job with it. Bill is a guy that will be able to figure it out very quickly. Again, it's short term, but he may be very effective for a short period of time.
I don't know, Rob. It seems like Trump is playing with fire here. You're already kind of on thin ice with the American people on the economy, and then you sort of act cavalierly about national security. I don't see how that's a smart play in this moment.
Well, I think the president made the right decision this week to come out and say this would be a temporary solution for the office of Director of National Intelligence, and he's interviewing other candidates. I think he read the fact that many members of Congress were concerned about the appointment of Pulte for the role. When it comes to some of the other things that he wants him to do, I think he makes some common sense arguments. For instance, having a permanent person in that role, it's more difficult to clean up some of the mess that Tulsi Gabbard was unable to maybe fully accomplish in her role. So he wants to reduce some of the staffing and overhead in the office.
I don't see how that's a argument.
Yeah.
I mean, the role is a statutorily created role. If he wants to change the scope of it, he needs to go to Congress to do that. If he wants his Director of National Intelligence to reduce the size of the office, he can do that with a permanent director who goes to Congress and says, here's the reason we should do this. Why won't he just do things the right way?
Well, so look at the previous administrations. Chad Wolf finished his tenure at Department of Homeland Security as an acting secretary. Julie Su under President Biden finished.
That's because Republicans refused
No, I
to
know,
confirm.
but I mean, we're in the mode where it's just so difficult to get
because
anything
they
through
wanted
the
her to be acting forever.
That's my
Republicans
point. We
refused
can't
to
get
confirm
anything
her.
through the U.S. Senate,
But
including
the Republicans have the Senate. Like they actually they're in control. This is their guy. He got all his other cabinet nominations. And I just want to point out, I don't even know if we would have a new DNI if the unfortunate circumstances hadn't happened with Tulsi's husband and why she actually stepped down. I don't know if Trump had a problem with her because she was going down to Fulton County and raiding and rallying balance. And so he's actually just looking for somebody to continue that work and not actually focus on the security of the country.
All right, we got to leave it there. Next for us, the Democrats are sidestepping questions about the party's controversial Senate candidate in Maine, raising some new questions. Does character only matter when they're wearing the other team's jersey? Plus, how California's slow ballot count is in key races is already fueling accusations of a rigged election by the president.